Hello and welcome to GuyLogic. My name is Temko and today we are taking a look at a game called Space Run Galaxy. Now Space Run Galaxy is the sequel to the 2014 release of Space Run. Pretty straightforward. The game takes place about 20 years later and the main protagonist of the previous game is now one of your commissioners as far as giving you missions to do stuff with. So let's go ahead and dive into some options and then showcase a bit of gameplay. Options wise, the game has some SFX, music and speech volume with a couple of notifications from buildings, modules lost and pirate destroyed. These are voice over notifications, you can turn these off if you want to, but they are okay, they're not bad, they just do get repetitive after like your 500th run. Graphical setting has V-Sync, shadows, windowed mode on or off, which screen you want it on, and then a resolution you can pick from. That you have to restart the game to make a resolution change really annoys me. The same goes for windowed on or off. You have to restart the damn game. That is a big oversight. And another two things that are an oversight for sure is the fact that there's no other graphical options to speak of. Now the game is mostly sort of pseudo-isometric 2D, so there isn't really a reason for a large number of options, but it would still been nice to like add AA or some other post-processing options, as well as some quality of life things such as colorblind mode and so on and so forth. So, having said that, we can go take a look at the control settings, and these are all fully rebindable. And the basic hotkeys are quite a bit better than they were in the previous release, so you don't have to rebind them if you don't want to. The default hotkeys do the job quite well, but you can if you should so desire. Now the game isn't really playable on a controller. It is strictly a mouse and keyboard game as far as I can tell. You could try, but I would not recommend it, to be very honest. The game performs at a smooth 60 FPS at any given time. I've never had a dip below 60, which would be very weird as it is an isometric title. I did have some weird things with sound levels not being really what it should be. Like music volume is now at 1%. It is still obnoxiously loud and I have no idea what causes it, so you may have to play around with that quite a bit to get it on the levels you might desire. Now the game has an online component, so technically it is always online, but there is an offline mode, so you can turn it off. You will lose quite a bit of the functionality that does make the game an improvement over the previous title in many ways. But if you don't want to play online or you don't have access to internet connection, you can play it offline. So there is that. So let's go ahead and dive into some gameplay and show you what this game is all about in its tower defense, space running, loot hogging method of being a space truck driver with guns. Let's go ahead and play some. So gameplay wise, the game starts you off in this galaxy map. Now there is 4 different solar systems where you can travel between, and they unlock at later levels down the line. Now in this specific run, I'm about level 6. I have unlocked about 3 ships, and there's a bunch of ships to unlock as well. I'll get to that in a little bit. But the goal is to ride from level to level and complete these runs. You can select a run and say you want to run it, and then you can load cargo on your ship and start your run and then build guns during the run in the normal tower defense-esque style of the game. One of the major changes they have added as opposed to the previous game, and the base gameplay is still the same, don't get me wrong, you still accept missions, you still go from station to station. There is a sort of a story and a sort of a progression that runs you through the various solar systems and the various tiers of runs. But what they have changed is the addition of these very cool ship types you unlock and upgrade with a variety of modes. So you have all these styles you can purchase, and you can do a bunch of stuff with them, like customize your base shape of your ship. So each ship can be customized up to a certain point, and bigger ships obviously have quite a bit more customization going for them, which is a pretty cool system. Also, the trading system between the various zones, where you can only upgrade a certain number of the modules. So you have offensive modules, utility modules, and defensive modules, which is the red, blue, and green modules. Depending on the solar system you're in, and depending on the space station you find yourself in, a different number of these modules can be added or removed or crafted for future runs. So there is all of that. Now the biggest departure from the previous title is the addition of social content. Now for example, in this area, the Toria Mines, there are missions I have accepted and missions I can do with the AI, which is the corporations that you know from the previous game. But there's also multiplayer contracts. Now obviously you have to be online to do these contracts. It's pretty straightforward. If you're playing offline mode, these are not available. But if you're playing online mode, other players have decided that they want to give rewards for moving cargo or shifting their resources to a different station by another player. And you can accept these contracts and basically say, well, I'm going to accept this contract. I'm going to take this one piece of player contract material and bring it to a different station. You can view that station on the map. It will tell you have to go from Torreal Mines to Tortuga. So you can go through Neo Olympus to Tortuga, or you can go all the way around through Badunye, followed by the Seti station, and then into Tortuga. And there's probably a hidden route somewhere here as well, by the looks of it. So you can decide to accept that, and based on when you do the run, you can see that this will going to give you exactly no rewards and credits, but it is going to give you a random reward, which is a secret until obtained, and is generally one of the very many modules you get for customizing your ship. Now, customizing your ship is pretty much as the previous game was. You have a mechanic, you have these modules, you can buy certain modules based on your resources, and it costs a bit of money, and then you have that number of modules you can build during a run. Overall, this entire mechanic works pretty well. You do runs, you get these module upgrades that you store in a certain location, and if they're not in the correct location, you can do a run yourself with that as your cargo, and get them all to the proper location, craft upgrades, and these upgrades are both locked by level as well as resource rarity. So you first have the lower level resources, then you have some more rare resources, or you say higher end resources you get later down the line, and then you have some higher end resources that are for the fancy and more expensive equipment. And you get these for all three types. So by the end of 20-25 runs, you'll be level 6, level 7, and you will have a whole ton of resources spread across the galaxy, and you have to spend an inordinate amount of time shipping these resources back and forth just to get everything crafted you might need, or store things for down the line, crafting things you may not even have unlocked yet because you're not the proper level. Another issue here though is you can use multiplayer contracts, but if nobody picks up your contract, then they're just gonna lie around and not do anything. So it's a bit of a time waster, and definitely a bit of a grindy sink to get all these resources transported from. For example, Baduya, I have to get 3 resources, and then I have to fly to Station K 2001, and then I have to fly from there to Seti Station, and then from Seti Station I have to fly to Tortuga, and get everything sorted there if I want to craft these 3 types of modules. So you'll be shipping modules left and right non-stop, and that really does get tedious quite fast. As I said, you can either put modules on sale, and if they sell, I get a bunch of money for it, right? Pretty straightforward. And if I go to the different station, I can buy that. But this is online with the different players. And obviously, this is the press build and the beta build, so there's not a lot of players online. And that means that unless somebody buys your stuff, they're just going to be in limbo for 168 hours until they either cancel out or get sold. And while that is okay, generally speaking, if you need this money for progression purposes, your only real recourse is to log out and wait, or to run previous missions time and time again to get a couple of extra resources for that. Each run has 3 levels of speed, and based on how fast you do a run, the more rewards you get. But especially later runs, and runs that have bosses, and runs that might require you to fight something very specific, those runs, like a boss here for example, those runs are going to be really tricky to get at light speed, which is the fastest mode, unless you are quite a bit upgraded and have quite a few modules. So you'll be running lower level runs and repeating the same runs quite a bit of times to get everything sorted. And even with the player created content, running the same Baduya to Station K201, Baduya Station K201 back and forth repeatedly just really does get tedious and boring, because you want to experience new enemies, you want to experience new ships, new archetypes, new runs. Now, all of this extra overworld, all these player-made runs, all these sales, and your friends and all that stuff like that is a nice addition to the core gameplay. And the core gameplay hasn't really changed. There are some minor things that have changed and some upgrade mechanics that have changed, but nothing really core. So if you liked the original Space Run, then the core gameplay is not going to be much different, and you'll probably enjoy that here too. And they have added quite a bit of extra gameplay, quite a bit of extra worlds. Like I said, there's 4 zones, there's over like 100 runs in the game. There is a bunch of marketplace things you can do with contract sales, there's NPC sales, and there's a ton of ships you can interact with. Different locations have different ships you can buy, and these ships have different configurations. So the Class 1, the T-Hunter ship, has a base structure of that looks like a bit of like the letter T, but you can expand that with about 10 cells you can add on that. So you have 19 base cells, and you can add 23 extra cells. So that gives you a maximum 42 cells. And you can add these extra cells on the ship. And if you have them, you can reuse them for multiple ships. You don't have to rebuy them for every ship. And if we head over to a different sector and visit that with fast travel, and we go to the merchant, you'll see here start 2 ships. And these are very different class ships, such as the Scavenger, which is a Enterprise-like ship from Star Trek. We have the Vulture, which everybody knows the Vulture. That hasn't really, it's Falcon. It's a Falcon ship. That's what it is. And then you have these rare ships that are more expensive but do offer quite a bit of extra stuff. So you have quite a bit of variety in ship structure and the way ships are constructed. And you can combine that with the various modules and do quite a bit of customization with every various runs. You can even pick and select ships between runs if you want to use a different ship for a specific run because you know that a certain run has a boss and you need that ship to hold a large number of modules on a certain side. You can change ships, customize it as you deem fit, even color code certain tile blocks if you want to remember where you want to put certain types of structures. And where the annoying part outside of running repeatedly the same runs comes in from is twofold, which is my view on the core gameplay loop of this game. So if we take something like Station K121, we fast travel there, and fast travel doesn't bring any loot with you, and we say we want to do a run to SETI Station. We select our ship. Now we have our ship here, we like our ship, and we want to add a bit of cargo to take with us to SETI Station. And we append that cargo here, like these 4 pieces of cargo, very good, and we start our run. And we can check if there's any multiplayer contracts for this run. So if we are just running with our own cargo, or we maybe have a mission with a very large ship and we can pile in more cargo for that run, this will allow you to check if there's any player objectives for this very specific run available for you at that time, which is a nice little addition. We can start our run, and from there, the run's going to start. It's going to play a little bit of an intro sequence, sort of a cutscene. And that's going to be pretty much it before you dive into the run itself. Now the run hasn't changed much at all. It's still the same isometric view that we've known before. The major difference obviously is the changes to the various modules and the way they function. As I said, the hotkey system works pretty well. Now, I'm not that familiar with hotkeys, but you can use them quite efficiently. And the hex nuts, they call them, system is still in place. There hasn't been any really major changes to that. What has changed quite a bit though is the way they do certain things like special abilities. Previously you could enable special abilities on weapons and they will just fire on their own. No longer the case. You have to get upgrade modules for those fire ships, and then you can sometimes trigger the special ability based on the amount of focus you have. And focus is restored by having engines that generate focus. The more engines you have, the more focus is generated, obviously. And we can build a bunch of stuff here on all these various styles. And that is all very good and very fine. My issue here is that, as you can see in the bottom here, the run takes roughly 6 minutes, and there's no way to speed up that run, I should say. So when you are dealing with this and you're just waiting on like these small asteroids to come in and attack me, there's no way to speed up time, and that really does get tedious because for a long time you're just looking at the screen waiting for stuff to happen, and when stuff does happen and you didn't prepare for it properly, you're going to get screwed over and die. And it's pretty easy to restart a run and you don't really lose anything by restarting a run, but it still doesn't feel great when you are in a run for 4 or 5 minutes, realize you messed up in constructing your ship, and if you remove one of these modules by removing a second ship, you don't get it back as a construction module, so you have to have a ton of extra modules so you can replace them on the fly if you mess up and stuff like that. There is quite a bit of stuff here that really needs you to grind ahead of time in running a variety of these runs time and time again, just so you have everything you need to get this thing sorted. Now, like right now, I need to build a bunch of units and a bunch of lasers, and there is stuff coming from all directions. So was it a good idea to build 3 of these green cannons that can rotate on the top side? Probably not, because probably I'm going to get attacked from the bottom, and I don't really have a defense side to the bottom. And these top guns on the top are upgraded. Yeah, they do a bunch more damage. There's 2 upgrades for every one of them, so you can plop 2 of these down if you want. But there really isn't a way for me to like remove them, add them on a different side, or replace them with something else without actually sacrificing that different module. So that is definitely a bit of a shame. Now, as for construction and the variety of guns and units in place, I am pretty much okay with that. The 3 major guns are these lasers, these pulse guns, and a sonar-like gun that does an ion blast. And they work in very different ways, and they do very different things for different situations, and that is phenomenal. What they also don't really do though is introduce variety in enemies. So far I've not gotten more than half a dozen enemy types, while they sometimes do things slightly different. So sometimes they'll add maybe more health, or sometimes they'll do zappy laser things instead of actually having a big gun, it doesn't really add a lot to it when the only enemy type you're seeing is different ships that could just be yours because they use the same weapons and the same guns and the same targeting mechanics and everything the same. So there's no surprise. If you see a certain gun, you know exactly what's in for it. And I always feel one of the major things with tower defenses, which is what this basically is, it's a tower defense in space, is getting surprised by certain mechanics and having to react to them as best you can. And in this case, it's less about being surprised by a certain mechanic, and it's more about trying something out, figuring out it doesn't work, and then redoing a run until it does work by changing certain things around, or by, just changing a little bit how you build your ship, or just doing a couple of extra runs and grinding it out until you get a higher level and can upgrade certain modules. Now, what I will give the game is that the ships are pretty destructible and the runs aren't very easy. So you will get destroyed quite effectively, and that's going to be it. The game doesn't hold its punches. It doesn't go and say, oh, you tried, so we're going to give you an extra chance. No. It will destroy you and it will blow you up. It doesn't really matter. If you are having a bad run, if you made mistakes and we tried redoing the run, it's going to just blow you up, and that is going to be that, and you can restart the run, obviously. The problem I have with that is, like I said, this run is going to last about 6-7 minutes. If we mess up, that's a run I'm going to have to redo from scratch. And if I'm not sure if I messed up by building it, or if the run got messed up because, for whatever reason, I didn't anticipate that it would require me to fight an pirate boss. That is very annoying to realize midway through a run, because you're building your ship based on what you're expecting, based on what you know is going to come, and they switch things around just enough that it becomes a little bit annoying to keep track of all that. Having said that though, the game does do a pretty phenomenal job in presentation. Both visual and audio presentation is damn phenomenal, and the way they have structured the runs with 3 time speeds means that even if you are a bit on the low side in tech trees or upgrades or levels, you can still spend time defending your ship and just arriving in one piece to complete the mission, and then later down the line go for the higher score and high score points of completing a run as fast as possible. That is definitely a possibility, so the game does try to cater to a variety of players, from those who are familiar with tower defense games to those that are more interested in the logistics part and completing the story and missions. So overall, in my final conclusion, I would say that this game does a pretty decent job of combining tower defense mechanics, a interesting gameplay element of building a variety of units, having to rebuild them, and also interesting player-oriented economy where other players can set up runs and trades, and you can interact with other players in that manner and keep a vibrant world flowing by having runs redo, and you can make money and recover losses if you mess up, or if you are trying to grind out a certain zone or region to get a higher level with different runs. It's pretty interesting, and I do like how they have done that. My issues though with the game come from the fact that these runs are pretty repetitive, and there's not a lot of variety in enemy types or even your own structure types of various upgrades outside of the couple you unlock later down the line, which is mostly linear upgrades of the same laser. Like you have a red laser, and then you get a missile launcher, and then you get a laser that shoots in 2 directions, and so on and so forth. And there's some variety in a anti-missile shield, and a general shield, and a upgrade for your engines. There's some stuff like that, but there's not a lot of it. What I will commend the game for is a large variety of ship types you can buy and unlock. What again I don't like is the fact that you have to unlock and you have to get a bunch of money, and to get that money you have to redo various runs time and again. So unless you really enjoy the tower defense-esque gameplay of these runs, this game might be less stellar than you would like it to be. And it's not a bad game by any stretch of the imagination, but it is pretty repetitive in its core gameplay loop. So unless you really enjoy that core gameplay loop, this might fall flat on its face a few hours in. It is quite enjoyable to make a ship, complete a run, beat a high score, deliver cargo, and figure out how to upgrade your ship, or figure out different combinations of guns and utilities and ship construction, and how you can tie that all together, as well as a pretty interesting, though pretty cliche story. So overall, I can recommend Space Run Galaxy, especially to those that enjoyed the original Space Run. It is a nice, clear evolution without changing much of the core gameplay formula. But if you are not a fan of the tower defense-esque gameplay, you might want to either hold on until a Steam sale comes out or a different type of sale comes out. If you are interested in Space Run Galaxy, you can check it out over on Steam for yourself. It comes out on June 17th. So thank you for watching. If you like this video, press that like button below. If you didn't like this video, well, there's a dislike button for exactly that purpose, and leave a comment. Tell us what you liked, tell us what we can do better. We want to hear back from all of you. And you want to see more content like this on the channel, press that subscribe button down below and we will deliver. So until then, I wish you a good day, and until next time, right here on GuyLogic.